Presidents, Prime Ministers and ponies, this is Drop Your Buffs discussing Survivor. Hello and welcome. My name is Stuart. We're talking about Survivor that aired on the 6th of April 2017. This is Survivor Game Changers that we're talking about. And with me, as usual, Craig, how's it going?
Good, Stu. How are you?
Pretty good, pretty good. And we have our third co-host here as well tonight, Eliana. How are you, Eliana?
I'm good. Hi again, everyone.
Now, I could see this sort of puzzled look from you, Craig, when I sort of started off with that little stinger at the start there, that the presidents, prime ministers and ponies.
I just never know what you're about to say, Stu, and I just love the alliteration you came out with there. That was just fantastic. I love it.
I owe it all to Debbie, it's because apparently she has met presidents and prime ministers and that hasn't phased her, and when she gets lonely, she goes with her ponies.
Yeah, and then she was beside herself when Cochrane turned up, but anyway, we'll get to that.
We'll get to that,
But I want to know, what I'm intrigued about that is, which president has she met? Which prime minister has she met? And what was the name of the pony?
Exactly.
I mean, these questions have got to be answered.
Well, I think with Debbie, though, sometimes it's just better not to know. It's just nice having that mystery because I think that is much more exciting than probably what the reality is.
Well, look, she's never boring, and it's probably not surprising that she came out with a statement like that. So, look, good on her. I'm still intrigued. I still want to know who she's met.
Okay, should we get stuck into this episode?
Let's go. Vote early, vote often, Stu.
Yes, that's right. Well, we get straight into the Nuku tribe, and they've just come off the back of that last tribal council, and Aubrey's basically saying, well, she was caught flat-footed with JT going home.
Always on the bottom, she says. I'm always on the bottom.
Yeah.
But Sandra put it pretty succinctly, I think. JT betrayed them in the vote, the previous tribal council when Malcolm got voted out, and I really think it was probably as simple as that.
She's very black and white in that way.
Yep, she is, yep. I think she's right.
Yeah.
And then back to Aubrey. I liked what Aubrey sort of said here. Sandra is the queen. I should learn from her. I love how she's thinking, all right, so she's strong, but how can I turn this to my advantage? What can I learn from her? What can I do?
I don't know why she's looking up to Sandra because, she's a great player. She's won twice, but she's so self-absorbed, saying, the queen stays queen, and then, that's a catchphrase that's going to be on all her merchandise because she says that before she destroys and votes out another one of her victims.
But it's that confidence, isn't it? She has absolute faith in herself.
It's
that no matter what the situation, you think it's too much? No matter what the situation, she honestly believes that she can dig herself out of it.
Yeah, that she could turn it around somehow.
And that is the mark of a great Survivor player, I think.
Yeah, and of course, Eliana, I don't think that she's saying those sorts of things directly to the faces of those people. She's not talking about queens and adios and all that sort of thing.
That's true, yeah.
So she's very smooth when she never raises her voice. She's always very calm and she's just very persuasive.
And
That's what she
someone
practices.
said that right at the back end of the episode. Somebody said that as well when they were talking about when she's trying to flip things around at camp while they're scrambling ahead of the tribal council vote. Someone actually says that.
That's right.
Yeah, so
that's right. Well, then we were taken over to the Mana tribe, and Ty has got that clue because I think we saw a glimpse of that at the last episode, and the clue was he had to wet some board with water to show a sign of where the idol was, and so this is what he's looking for. And this is still straight after tribal council, so it's nighttime.
That's right. Yep.
It'd be pitch black out there.
No, it wasn't nighttime because he says I have to do this quickly before my other tribe members wake up.
Yeah, but was that later on?
I'm pretty sure it was in the dark.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it was still dark, but it wasn't morning.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Yeah,
it might have been 5 a.m.
Okay, I see. Yeah, yeah.
We never really told what time it was.
No.
We were certainly running around in the dark. And lo and behold, once again, I don't know how many idols he's found in his Survivor career, but once again, he's found it.
He must have
almost like a sixth sense, isn't it?
One of the most idols found for any survivor, I would say. I'm not sure what the stats are, but he was just he went to the water well. He has his canteen of water and he's just splashing around everywhere. And eventually he sees that's an anchor symbol for the tribe.
And I love how he says, "I found it on the last board I wet." Well, it's not going to be the second last board he wet, is it? Really?
No, that's right.
Or maybe it was just that there was literally no more boards left on the well for him to cover in water. So maybe that's what he meant. But yeah. But well, anyway, the point is he's got himself an idol.
He found it. That's right. Yeah. He did. Well, then the next day dawns.
Next day dawns, and what a great moment for us.
Yes, no, it was another drop your buffs moment. So it's already the second one for the season. Will we get a third one, Craig?
Oh, look, it's so early in the season. I mean, there's still 15 out of 20 days left at the beginning of this episode. So, yeah, I'd say there'll be another one.
I think that there'll be one more.
One more before the merge?
Yeah.
Probably
I
right.
think so.
So here we are, thinking it's going to be a challenge. No, it was all set up for one.
Yeah, no, it was, and I was thinking about this because did that end up being the site of where the final challenge later in the episode was held? Was that
that
beach?
Site, but I think it looked different. We didn't get a lot of look at what they'd set up, but
it was set up as a.
It was set up at like the later challenge we had the whole the thing that they were dragging the platform they were dragging the big sled along and all that sort of stuff, and I didn't see any of that infrastructure. That's not a word I thought I'd get to use this while. All this infrastructure there that wasn't really there. But anyway, lulled them into thinking they were there for a challenge, but they weren't. They weren't there for a challenge.
No.
We dropped our buffs and we're back to 2 tribes. Mana
yes.
And Nuku.
And Debbie.
And Debbie.
Because, of course, we had the orange Mana tribe, the blue Nuku tribe, and Debbie had no tribe.
She had no tribe, standing right in the middle there. Yeah.
And I think to paraphrase Debbie, I think Jeff crushed Debbie's heart at that moment.
Yeah, it looked at that point, and we'll talk about what happened later, but at that point it didn't look too good for her, did it, standing there?
Were you feeling sorry for Debbie, Eliana?
I was not really sorry. I was just glad that she was actually getting some punishment after her explosion in the last episode, because I don't think that was really necessary. I think she was just really frustrated with the game.
Yeah, she was angry.
But it wasn't really anyone's fault, so I was really happy to see her draw the buff. Like, no, it's Debbie.
I felt sorry for her. I just felt for her standing there. It would not be a nice situation to be in, would it?
No,
You'd feel very left, right out. No, God, the next 2-3 days are not going to be too pleasant. And I mean, Exile Island in the past has always been some horrible beach with no supplies. It's cold. You're on your own.
There's no shelter.
There's just nothing.
There's nothing. It's just a bare rock usually.
It'd be just horrible. And so I sort of thought, oh gosh, imagine facing that.
Oh, and part of Debbie's, I think a big part of Debbie's problem last episode was that she was feeling on the outer, and so this just magnified it.
Exactly. I mean, it was complete fluke that it could have been any one of those 15 people who could have drawn that blank. But yeah,
I know, but wouldn't you feel that it would be a little bit hollow because it just had nothing in it? It was just the outside.
I think you'd be confused. I think you'd open it up and go, "Oh no, what does this mean? I haven't been given to a tribe. What does this mean? Am I voted out?" That might have been her.
I think if you played Survivor before, you could put 2 and 2 together. It's pretty obvious. If you're not put on a tribe, you got no buff. It's exile.
Well, we know it's not good. Well, we thought it was not good. We found out later it's actually not as bad as we thought. But yeah.
Yeah, well, Jeff told her that she was going to Exile Island and she'd be coming back at the next tribal council and she would be joining the tribe that had just lost a member. So at least she wouldn't...
So the advantage is she's definitely safe for the next 3 days, but the disadvantage is she doesn't get the opportunity to bond with a new tribe, and she doesn't know which tribe she's going to be in either.
No.
Because it's luck of the draw for her. Well, I suppose it was luck of the draw for everybody, but in her case, whoever loses the challenge and goes to tribal council is the tribe she'll be joining. Which, because they've lost the challenge, might indicate they're the weaker tribe. Yeah.
That's right,
anyway, things turned out okay, as it turned out, but she didn't know that at the time, and neither did we.
No, so as it turns out, there's no challenge at all. Everyone goes back to their...
So before we move on, is it worth just quickly running through what the new tribes are? So we've returned to 2 tribes, Mana and Nuku. Mana is in orange, and its members now are Troyzan, Michaela, Sierra, Haley, Aubrey, Siri, and Culpepper. And Haley remains on Mana tribe. So the whole time Haley has managed to stick with Mana tribe from day one. And then Nuku tribe is blue, and on Nuku we've got Sandra, Sarah, Jeff Varner, Andrea, Ty, Zeke, and Ozzy, which very much changes the dynamics over there, particularly for Sandra and Jeff Varner, as they've come from the old, they've come from Nuku tribe. Tavua has 4 members of that tribe: Sarah, Andrea, Zeke, and Ozzy. So it's, as was pointed out, it's Sandra's fortunes have changed very quickly all of a sudden.
That's right. Well,
but she was still optimistic about it. I mean, back at back at camp, she said,
Oh,
I'm
she
I'm
was.
optimistic. Yeah, it's just I can work with this. Give me a couple of days, and I'll be queen again.
That's right. I mean,
I love the confidence.
yeah, she is definitely. And but Zeke was he was really seeing Sandra as the big threat that she is, and he definitely wanted her out.
Yes.
But then Andrew is saying, well, Ty's really good at finding idols. Maybe we should get rid of Ty. So there was a bit of a, Sandra versus Ty for the moment,
Yeah, exactly.
and then we end up with Zeke telling Jeff and Sandra that they're voting for Ty to try and throw them off the scent that they're really going to vote for Sandra.
And
so.
good old Sandra, she wasn't falling for that.
No.
Doesn't sound right. Why would they do that? She's
Yeah.
I mean, she's putting
she's a
herself
good
in
player.
their shoes, isn't she? And
Yeah.
she's just saying, okay, if I was in their shoes, what would I do? I'd be voting for me. It's just Thai business. Why would they do that? So,
That's right. No.
Once again, Sandra trying to make something out of whatever situation she finds herself in.
And then back on the Mana tribe, Brad, we just hear a bit from Brad, and he's really saying that, well, he's really with people he doesn't really know, but he's sort of starting to connect with Troyzan, basically because he's the only other guy on that tribe.
Well, what he actually said is Troyzan's a man and I'm a man.
That doesn't really mean anything. Like, I don't know how you could form a bond by just having the same gender. Like, it doesn't really make a clear signal that, oh, we're best buddies now, we're both male. Like, you could still make a
That's
pretty
true.
good alliance with females.
I think that's true now, but certainly in earlier seasons there was a big thing with
Girls
male.
versus boys.
Yeah, there was.
Well,
there
we've
was
actually had seasons that were done that way, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and but I think in recent seasons that has never really panned out that way, has it? We haven't really had a strong gender alliance for a long time, I don't think. But it was,
I'm struggling to think of one quickly, but yeah. So the five women on Mana Tribe are Michaela, Sierra, Haley, Aubrey, and Sari, who've come from all three of the previous tribes.
Mm-hmm.
But and it was interesting how Culpepper said he actually hadn't met Aubrey and Michaela, and
Yeah.
he wouldn't have. He hasn't played with them before. He hasn't been on the same tribe as them yet. So
Well, I think that the audience has barely met Michaela too, because she's hardly had two words on this whole season, pretty much.
she had one episode where when she was in the firing line, where she was on quite a fair bit. But so interesting to hear Culpepper say that all these really famous players, there's actually two he's never met, and up until day 14 hadn't played with them yet. Really interesting.
Well, if he hasn't been on the same tribe as them, then the only chance is at challenges, and they don't really get a chance to talk at challenges, do they? So
no, exactly.
Yeah.
And then
back to Ty.
Back to Ty. Yeah, Ty thought, oh, okay, well, I know what the clue was over at the other camp, and I wonder if they had the same one. So let's run around and see what we can find. And lo and behold, Ty finds another idol.
I don't think that he really stands out when he finds an idol, because everyone can find an idol. It's just he had to. Like, it was important that he found one. Like, if everyone else was in Ty's shoes, they would probably be running around looking for idols, and they would have more experience as well.
I reckon they would all be running around looking for idols. We just don't see it.
Yeah.
I'd say.
It's just funny that Ty's gameplay and so on is quite lacking in many fields, but in finding idols,
he's pretty good.
He's pretty strong.
He's pretty. As I said before, I don't know
how
many he's found now in his Survivor career, but let's add another one. So he's now got 2. Let's see what he does with them.
That's right. The worst thing that can happen is going home with idols in your pocket. Not just one, but 2 idols in your pocket.
Has anyone gone home with 2 idols in their pocket?
No.
Yeah, not good. Anyway, so off we go to Debbie. Heading for Exile Island. Oh, this is going to be terrible. And all of a sudden, there's a ship. Consistent with our shipwreck theme of this series. She's on a ship. It's nice. She's going a bit crazy. There's food. It's going to be comfortable. It's going to be nice and pleasant to sleep on. And then a boat arrives. Who's on the boat, Stu?
The one and only Cochrane. Cochrane, we haven't seen for a little while, but he's definitely a fan favourite, isn't he? He's a great player.
Probably my favourite of all time, to be honest. The season that he won, I was just so excited for him when he was winning. I was really, really happy when he won.
Yeah,
It was a victory for all the nerds out there.
That's right. Well, it was this whole exile experience for Debbie was just yet another game changer sort of element to this season, wasn't it? Because it was completely the
complete opposite of what we normally expect from Exile Island, which is
That's
just
right.
poverty and horrible.
I don't think they've ever done that in all Survivor history, like completely turn it around, make it into
No,
like some
no.
luxury paradise.
Not that good with
Yeah,
a
with, like-
former winner to come in and
Yeah.
give you some advice who knows some of these people
And an option of 3 advantages.
and the 3 advantages. Exactly right.
Personally, I would have taken the make your own fake idol kit because I would love doing that. How in I think it was even the last season or the season
We've
before.
seen a few fake idols made over the years, haven't we?
Yeah,
That's
I just love people doing that, and then like they're playing them, and then their faces. When Jeff says, "This is not an idol," and then everyone's like, "This is so funny."
So, of course, the other 2 options that she had, so there was a hidden immunity idol making
Or kit. Fake,
a kit
the fake idol
to
kit.
make a really good but completely fake idol, an extra vote, and a tribe challenge advantage. She picked the extra vote, and her rationale was that that's a guarantee, so she can, she knows what it is.
Yes, that's right.
It gives her an extra vote. I think I would have picked that one as well, to be honest. I don't know, what do you reckon?
Yeah, no, yeah.
Yep.
Me too.
You already
Me
got an
too.
extra vote, so Eliana, you've gone the kit.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Now, when Cochrane came over, he was saying that his purpose there is really to be like a third party sort of advisor that can offer any advice from from a removed perspective that can perhaps help her. I doubt whether he would have known about anything that was going on in the game at all, would he? Because I don't think he would have.
That was the thought that was crossing through my mind.
Yeah.
Presumably he's been back at wherever the crew is. Maybe he did.
Well, I think that would have been unfair though, because he may have seen things that Debbie wouldn't have
True.
be privy to. So I think that he could only really go on what Debbie was telling him.
And I know I've seen things that Jeff Probst has said before, and I've seen him say on Twitter before that he doesn't see rushes of what's going on at camp prior to tribal council.
Right.
It doesn't mean his producers don't see it and aren't sort of giving him lines to use, perhaps, but apparently he doesn't actually see what's going on. That was a thought that crossed my mind. How much did Cochrane know? And is he coming back? Is this a one-off? Or is Exile Island going to appear again and he's going to be there again? Is he sort of like the resident Survivor Game Changers Oracle or something? I don't know.
Well, I was wondering how useful his advice would be, given that, assuming that he doesn't know anything about what's going on back at camp, which I don't think he probably really does.
I think you're probably right, yeah.
So I guess his advice is sort of pretty general, although his advice I thought was good, because I think he read Debbie pretty well and just being overconfident and so on, and he was just sort of imploring her to, you just have to work with all these egos and just go along with it, go with the flow, and you'll get much further in the game. And hopefully she'll take that on board.
Yeah, well, and he said that as well. So look, I reckon he's of everyone, he's got the best gig here. I mean, he doesn't have to go and sit in the sand for 39 days.
Yeah.
He just turns up, has a nice lunch with someone, gives some advice, and off he goes, and probably gets paid for it. So, way to go, Cochrane. Once again, you're the winner, I reckon.
But that is a good question, because we haven't seen any evidence yet of Debbie telling the others exactly what Exile Island was, and whether she will tell people.
Oh, I wouldn't.
No.
There's no way I would tell anybody that.
And whether or not that Exile Island will sort of stay there for the rest of the season and be used again multiple times, as it normally is done in previous seasons.
Time will tell on that one. But I mean, I don't see what advantage she would get by telling anybody that happened.
They'll just put a target on it, probably.
Because she's well fed. She's probably, I don't know how comfortable her sleeping arrangements were, but she's probably had a nice sleep. So, she'd be quite revitalised by that. She's got to speak to someone outside the game who's not, involved in the outcome. So he doesn't have to. He's not stabbing her in the back or anything. He's just saying what he thinks. I think it's a big advantage for her. And of course, she's got one of those advantage.
Yeah, that's right.
It just kept on getting better and better.
I mean, I've actually found the whole thing hilarious. I mean, Stu and I watched it together, and I was laughing quite a bit, wasn't I? I thought that was fantastic, that little segment. I loved it. Anyway,
now we're back over to
the sand.
Yes, back over to the Blue Nuku tribe.
Yep.
And Zeke's on the beach there, bonding with Jeff, and he sees that he can see a future for working with Jeff in the future, but he's just there just to convince him that Ty's going
Yeah.
home, even though they're really going to go for Sandra. He's just trying to say that they're going to go for Ty.
And at this point, he made an interesting comment which had subtitles which didn't help me, which was, if I had my druthers.
Yes. Now,
Do you know what druthers is?
I have done some
You just
research
looked it up,
actually.
of course
Craig.
you
I
have.
have, yes, and it's
When
well.
did you get time to do that?
Oh. Well, it says it means it's one preference or one's preference in a matter. So what someone's preference
So if it
is.
was
But
up to me. You're saying if it was up to me, basically.
yes, and it comes from in the late 19th century from a U.S. regional pronunciation of "I'd rather." It's a contraction of "would rather."
Oh, there you go.
So it
it's
does actually make a bit of
so it's
sense.
American slang.
Sounds like it, yeah. Which is probably why we've got no idea what that means.
So perhaps every American saw it. Well, I know exactly what that means, and across on the other side of the Pacific here, we don't actually know.
No, it's all
Well,
right.
there you go. Who would have thought I could learn something about English from watching an episode of Survivor? But
That's right.
are you going to use it?
I think tomorrow I'm going to try and
You
work it
use
into
it
my
in a sentence?
conversation at work and just see how it goes.
My druthers, if I had my druthers, and people will look at you and go, "What the hell are you on about?"
When we get over to the immunity challenge, I think, don't we? That's the next part.
Yeah. Just before we do that, though, I mean, Jeff completely took the bait that Zeke was offering him about Ty, and he's talking to Sandra again, and basically, Sandra is not buying it. Jeff's saying, "I think we're okay," and Sandra's saying, "No, I'm just not buying it. It doesn't add up." Gee, she's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Over to the challenge.
Over the challenge.
This was
Well,
hard.
Yes, this one
This
was
looked
where
really physically tough.
yeah they had some puzzle pieces they had to get onto a sled and then pull the sled up the beach and then solve this puzzle.
Yeah. Yeah.
And towards the start of the challenge, there was a section where they had these monkey bars that they
Yeah.
had to go across. Well, it was monkey bars that had a rope below it,
Yeah.
which I thought was a bit unfair for some of the shorter people, like Sandra, for instance, had trouble. I think only because he just was having trouble reaching the
Yeah.
monkey bars, you know.
Yeah.
So that was a bit tough for her.
I don't understand why they even put in the rope. It would be much more physically demanding without having the rope, and I
It
think
would be,
and it would have
It'd be
been
really hard.
funnier. And I think
but they might
I
lose
think that
half the
would be
people.
easier because I'm also a short person. That would be easier for me if I could just swing across.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is Survivor. It's not Ultimate Beastmaster. If it was Ultimate Beastmaster, then there'd be no rope. It would just be the monkey bars.
It might have been there all day.
Yeah.
And
That's right.
when after Sandra finally crossed the monkey bars, when she dived into the water head first, I was like, ow, that would hurt, because if you saw how shallow that water was, you could have easily hit your head.
I had exactly the same thought. Everyone else
Yeah.
was jumping off feet first.
Even
Yeah.
Aussie jumped in
Even
feet
Ozzy
first.
jumped
Yeah.
off feet, having done a spectacular dive right at the beginning of the challenge, as he always does. But yeah, I saw Sandra do that, and I sort of, every Australian sort of taught, don't dive into short water, so shallow water, and I was there going, oh, not good, not good. We've got to be careful doing that.
Well, Mana got to the beach first.
They did.
It was very tough pushing the sled up the beach, and
Nuki were catching.
yeah. But I thought you thought that Troy Zan had some sort of injury
I
or
just
something.
wonder whether he seemed to go down. Now maybe he was really, really tired or exhausted after it, but it looked to me like he'd hurt his arm or his wrist or something, and he was down on the ground in the background. Nothing was said about it, but I could see it going on in the background. Troy Zan seemed to be down on the ground for a little while and looked like he was in some sort of pain. Now, by the end of the challenge, he jumped up and he was, seemed to be okay and didn't seem to be in any obvious distress. But for a while there, he was down on the ground. So maybe he was tired, maybe he was exhausted. I don't know. But it was just a little something I noticed in the background that we might keep an eye on next week.
Well, it was a very tough slog on that section, pulling the sled up the beach, and it made me think, well, this is what happens when the last few people I've voted off, whether I've voted off Tony, Malcolm, JT, all the big strong guys, and then they're left with these challenges and suffering for it.
Yeah, exactly. That's why you don't vote off your strongest
That's
players at this point of the game. You've got to make
right.
it to the merge, then you vote them off.
So Mana gets to start solving the puzzle first, and they've got Aubrey, Suri, and Sierra, the ones that are solving it, and they solve it in record time.
Gee, it was quick.
Yeah.
It was like they were on the beach. They'd started. I think we went over to see how Nuki were doing. And next thing, Mana solved the puzzle. It was amazingly quick.
It just seemed like they basically put the pieces on the table and they're all in the right position. That was it.
magically appeared. It was quite amazing.
I don't think it was a hard challenge, like on a survival scale, Because normally
The
they're
puzzle part or all of it?
the puzzle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
No,
The rest
At
of it was
least-
incredibly tough. Yeah.
yeah, because all the other puzzles are a bit more difficult and have like a more complex aspect to it or a particular pattern or something. But that thing was so easy, and even on the top of the barrels, it had the same pattern on each one.
Yeah, well, it all happened so quickly. I wasn't even sure what the puzzle was, to be honest, because it was all it was all
It
solved.
was a random collection of barrels, wasn't it?
Yeah, seemed to
Anyway.
be. But the end result was Nuku going to tribal.
And Ozzy said, "Well, that sucked." I mean,
Yep.
that's succinct, isn't it? That's probably a pretty true statement, a fair statement of how they felt about it.
Well, seeing them back at camp, they were all just they were stunned, weren't they? And they were
Yeah.
just shattered. And
But Sandra wasted no time in doing. She knew she was in a bit of trouble, and she wasted no time in seeing what she could do and create some chaos and divert
Oh,
people's
yeah.
attention onto other things. And I really liked what she tried on here. So, and she was talking to Zeke. Sorry, not Zeke. Sorry, it was Ozzy, Andrea, and Sarah. Saying to them basically, I can watch your back, I can help you here, because you don't want Aubrey, Ty, and Debbie together. And of course, we know that they've played together. You
mm,
don't want them together. It's
In
a
K.
very
Wrong.
valid point. But I don't, based on the looks on their faces, I don't think they'd thought of.
no, although that argument has come up before, though, hasn't it?
Yeah, it came up a couple of episodes
yeah,
ago, yeah.
But
But I don't think, I think it was, might have been Malcolm and someone else I have a vague recollection had that conversation last time. I can't remember now, but it's very true,
mm.
and good on Sandra for trying.
And not that she was saying that they were friends particularly, but just but just the mere fact that they have played together is some bond
Correct.
that none of the others have.
Correct.
And so that is something. That's what she was trying to get across.
But Sarah saw her for what it was. You know, she's she sort of basically said Sandra is grooming us and has sucked us in, and Ozzy goes, vote her out.
But Sarah was saying, I mean, she could recognise how good Sandra was and how persuasive
Yeah.
she was, and she was saying, it's almost like she's grooming us.
Yeah.
was her terminology.
Grooming us, sucking us in.
And
I don't-
yeah,
Really understand that terminology. Like, I sort of understood where she was getting at, but grooming, I don't think that was the right word. Like, when I think of grooming, I think of like a dog at a salon or something. It doesn't really match up with the Survivor
well,
gameplay.
it probably is still a little bit similar though, because she is placating them with her words, and she's
Stroking them gently on the back
she's
of the
been being
head,
very
saying, I can help you out. I'm
exactly,
really great.
so
I
that
love
then
you
when the
guys."
knife comes, they won't feel it.
Exactly.
Yeah. So,
Well, whatever you say, but I think it's just an American term.
oh yeah, no, it's
It could be.
I think it's
it
a bit of a
could be.
worldwide term actually, but yeah.
Ty's nervous, though.
Yes, no,
I'm not as smart as these people, he says.
he's always nervous though.
Yeah, I know.
He's always nervous.
Yeah, I'm not as smart as these other great players, he said, and I don't scheme a plot. I just don't think like that. Well, I think we know that. He finds idols, but he flip flops backwards and forwards, and of course then he spills the beans on
That's right.
on the whole Sandra plot, and Ozzy's not particularly happy about that.
Well, yeah, I mean basically that he tells Jeff what they're all doing, and that's what they were trying not to tell Jeff
Exactly. Yeah.
what
Yeah.
the plan was, because then of course Jeff goes and tells Sandra.
Of course. So Sandra's not very happy about that, but I think she probably knew that was going to happen, and announces that not announces, but tells us she's going to set Ty up at Tribal Council,
That's right.
which sets it up beautifully for Tribal Council.
That's right. Tribal Council. Debbie comes in to watch the tribal.
I was wondering what they were going to do with
Yeah,
Debbie. I
I
was
thought
wondering
that
whether
too.
she was going to come in and watch, or whether she'd be brought in at the end and wouldn't
Mm.
know what had gone on. So that was. I guess they probably had to. It'd be a bit rough, wouldn't it, to make her join the tribe with no knowledge about what was talked about.
yeah,
At the
yeah,
trial.
that's
I think
right.
that would be a very tough way. But then after all the advantages she's been given over on the good ship Cochrane,
That's right.
you know, she's done pretty well over the last couple of days. hasn't
That's
she?
right. That's right.
Yeah.
Well, we first hear from Andrea, and she's talking about getting rid of big threats. And Jeff
Yeah.
Probst says, "Well, really, who isn't a big threat in this game?" Which is, is
Yeah.
right. I mean, they're all game changers.
That's right.
That's why they're all there. So
Yep.
it was a bit of an empty comment, I guess, by
Yeah.
Andrea in the end.
Yeah, and Aussie's asked, do you debate much about who it's going to be? He says, I debate every day. This is going on all the time. And then Sandra does her, what she always said she would do, which was, I think I'm gone. I had a great 16 days. It's been awesome. And I think this is it. Ty agrees with her, but then says he's worried, he's nervous, and he's a bit paranoid. And then I think it was when Sarah said, because I think, was it who was it that said they hadn't heard it? No, I think it was Sandra, wasn't it? She said, no one's been talking to me. I haven't heard any names.
Yeah.
And Sarah says, well, I've heard some names. And it all exploded from there, didn't it?
Yeah, and then Ty was talking about dropping some names, and then Sandra said, "I'll go and vote with you,
exactly,
with you, Ty."
yeah.
So then that all exploded.
And it was on. So we had Ty then talking to Sandra and Jeff, and reveals to everybody that he's told them to vote for Aussie, and then that triggered off another round of discussions with various people, and it was going backwards and forwards. And I mean,
this has happened almost every tribal council, where they all stop for a second and talk amongst themselves
and re-strategize,
which has never happened.
So is this going to be a continuing feature? Is this going to be the point at which up to season 34 we didn't have any of that going on at tribal council, but from this point onwards, tribal councils are going to be these free-for-alls where the strategy is being re-prosecuted during the
I don't think I want to see it every week though. I think after a while it would just lose its charm, wouldn't it?
It's pretty crazy when it happens though.
Mm.
So yeah, and then Zeke makes the very valid point, you know, about Ty. You know, how can I trust you? So you say you trust me, you say you trust Sarah, you say you trust Andrew, you say you trust Aussie, but
who do you trust in this game?
Who do you trust, and how can I trust you? So it was all set up beautifully for what on earth is going to happen next. And of course, we know they don't. We know that Ty has two idols, presumably in his pocket.
That's right. And you'd think, being as nervous as he is, chances are he would have played one of them.
But he didn't.
No.
So my reaction when that happened,
I was amazed.
I was amazed, and I thought, I think he's gone. I really thought he was gone. Why not doing that? But
I mean, even knowing what we know how it turned out, I think he still should have played it because it was still up in the very much up in the air. He could easily have gone home.
Yeah, I agree.
And because
like you got two, you and particularly with how uncertain that was, the discussion that had gone down at tribal council, he's saying himself that he's nervous, paranoid, and worried about what's going to happen. I don't understand if you feel that way, and if you're not sure why you wouldn't play it. If you think there's even a relatively small chance that you could be on the chopping block, you've still got one in spare. You're not. That's right. You know, it's not one shot and you're gone. He's still got one spare, even if he plays it.
And people don't like playing with other people that are unpredictable, and Ty is unpredictable, and so that
makes him a threat.
It does.
Yeah, exactly.
So Ty doesn't use his idol.
Sure, doesn't use his idol, much to our amazement, but no one there is aware that that's going on. So anyway, so off we go. Time for the vote.
Yep.
So in the end, it was 5-2 to Sandra. Ty picked up the other two votes that came from Sandra and Jeff, but Ty, Andrea, Ozzy, Zeke and Sarah all voted for Sandra, and for the first time in 94 days of playing Survivors, the first time Sandra's ever been voted out. Amazing.
That's amazing. But in her words, the Queen stays the Queen.
There's only one Queen. But adios.
Adios. There's only one world. Adios. Well, Sandra, you've really provided some great TV though over the last few weeks. So
look, she played it hard. I mean, and she took it on the chin. There was no recrimination or
no. That's right.
I was like, you got me. Well done. You played well, and good luck to you all.
Yeah,
I respect that.
That's right.
Yeah. Does me no good at all in the fantasy league, though, Stu.
No, that's right.
I'm literally down to one player, which is Sari.
Sari,
who's getting no airtime at all. So I'm getting no points whatsoever. So.
Well,
I'm no longer interested in the fantasy league.
Well, I've got Haley and Michaela who also haven't been getting any screen time either. So I think that we're languishing at the bottom of the table.
It's really not looking good for us.
But they haven't actually put through the points yet for the most recent episode. So I'm not sure exactly where we stand. But I think at the moment Nick is really running away with it.
Oh, he would be. He's got four members of his team going, doesn't he? And
yeah.
No, I assume he's miles in front, and my star will continue to crash. Go, Sari. She's got to win the whole thing now. It's my only hope. And talk more. You've got to talk more.
Well, then next week on Survivor, we saw it seemed like every person on the Mana tribe were in tears. So I'm not sure what that could be, because normally that only happens when it's their loved ones or something. But
or love letters.
Yeah, but it seems far too early for that, though, doesn't it?
Or a medevac or something like that.
No, yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, because it didn't show all the tribe members, so it could be an accident.
I think at least 3 of them
Or it could just be normal promo editing where they collected a selection of random shots together and created a story that actually doesn't exist.
No.
We'll find out next week.
Maybe they're all chopping onions or something like that. Yeah.
Well, maybe they won them in a challenge or something. Yeah, that
That's
could
right.
be.
And Aussie seems to be on the chopping block too, doesn't he, this time? That's what they were saying anyway. That
Yeah.
there's a few people gunning for Aussie. So,
Yeah. Well, he's a strong player.
yeah,
Strong
I-
and well liked.
certainly the closer we get to the merge, people like that are going to have big
Yes.
targets on their backs. So.
Correct. They become less important to the success of the tribe.
That's right. Well, have we discussed everything we wish to discuss?
I think so.
Pretty
What do you-
much.
What do you
Yeah.
think? Okay. Well, thanks, Craig, Eliana, for joining us all tonight, and thanks for listening, everyone. It was another great episode, and we look forward to the next
Absolutely.
week.
Yeah.